Back on the short circuit, I'm Kate Constable, and today we have six-time NBA All-Star Jermaine O'Neal with us. Jermaine, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
How are things going down in Texas with just how the world is right now? How have you been hanging in there?
Well, I think we're doing it pretty much like everybody else is doing it, just taking it day to day, taking in all the information that we can take in, and to try to get back to some sense of normalcy when it comes to our day-to-day life. For me as a person, as a dad, as a business owner, it's been pretty interesting. But we all know there's better days ahead, and we just got to just stand strong.
Yep. I feel you there. So you created Drive Nation in 2016, and you're the first program director that we've had on the short circuit. And so there's a lot I want to ask you, but I want to know first a little bit about this program. Based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, how did you come up with Drive Nation? What gave you the idea to build it?
Well, a couple of reasons. One was my daughter, who's at the University of Texas right now playing volleyball. At the time, she started playing. We were doing club sports in Dallas, and as a professional athlete, we're so used to everything being under one roof, right? We don't have to drive 4 different places to get everything we need to get out of it, as far as our bodies and nutrition and everything. And when I moved to Dallas almost 7 years ago now, one of the first things that jumped out to me was that youth sports is just huge. But you had to paste and cut a lot of different things to add together. So I ended up, doing some research, and obviously there's a lot of facilities here, but it's more of a rental model. Nothing really was kind of all under one roof. And I just started, just asking around and say, hey, what if somebody, put together a sports facility that was basically a home to train kids mentally, emotionally, and physically. How do you guys think that'd be something that was good? And for the most part, we got all positives, and then went out and put this model together. Made a couple, flew out to Florida to meet with AAU, flew to Oregon to meet with Nike. Met with Dr. James Andrews from the Andrews Institute, and it all just kind of came together. So here we are, 3 years later, and it's I think the impact has been felt in our communities, and but we still have a lot of work to do.
Now, you mentioned kind of helping build kids' character off the court, whether that be volleyball or basketball. So mentally, physically, how you guys work with those kids. Why was it so important for you to kind of be a mentor in off the court aspects as well as coaching and mentoring on the court?
Well, one of the things that I truthfully believe in is that sports it's an incredible life tool that we can use. And the challenges of what we do on the playing surfaces is exactly the same challenges of what we're having in real life. What happens when you get behind in a game? What happens when you get knocked down? What happens when you go on a terrible run? And what happens when you go on a great run? How do you handle that? Mm-hmm. And so, one of the things that was really big for me was getting information to parents, most importantly to parents, that they can use for their kids, because they get one opportunity at this sporting level, which is youth sports, to try to get to, the collegiate level. So we speak a lot about that. We talk a lot about, being high character people, what that relates to and what the return on that is. And for the most part, we've done a great job. We've had 50 plus Division I athletes in two senior classes. So that is a goal that we are really, really proud about and looking forward to in the next, 20 to 30 years.
Yeah, that's very impressive. One of the things that I've heard about you and your program is that there's no concessions. These guys and girls have to earn everything that they get at Drive Nation. So why is it important for you to instill those principles into your players? And then taking it a step further, your son plays. So what's it been like coaching him and teaching him these same type of disciplines?
Well, I'm really big on no concessions. One, because my mother raised me that way. She always told me that, nobody really cares about how you feel or how your night went or what's going on in your family. They care about production, right? They're never going to ask those questions. And that's what the world is, right? And we want to teach these kids exactly what reality is teaching us as adults, right? When we go into our workplace, it's about production, right? And we have to make sure we're prepared and we're focused on that. So I've clearly lost a lot of, associates here in my short period in Dallas, because I had some friendships that, um, they had some kids, and, they want, some people wanted me to make some decisions that I wouldn't make, for my own kids.
Right.
And I'm wholeheartedly a true believer in that. Even with my daughter at University of Texas, I always tell her, hey, look, me and your mom, we're not going to waste $1 of our money driving up to Austin, watching you underperform. Right. And with underperforming, I want to be clear on that part. It's not a stat thing that I'm talking about. It's pure effort.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Just give me pure effort, and let the chips fall as they may. That's what we're looking for. And that's what we do as far as the program. But as far as my son, it's been very unique in many ways, because he's after me, which I wasn't necessarily a big fan of. My wife kind of pushed that, pushed that on me. And as a player, you want your kids to create their own lanes. Obviously, I'm very excited about my daughter playing volleyball. I'm very excited about my son playing basketball, but that's something that they choose to do. And I want to make sure that I'm not pushing that on him. And so I have these conversations with him, really almost daily, and it's really short periods, right? Well, hey, is this something that you still want to do?
Mm-hmm.
You tell me yes. I say, okay, here's what we're gonna do, right? Here's the template. And it's been a great balance, because sometimes I have to tell myself just to pull back when I'm coach Jermaine versus when I'm dad. And that's the balance that I think about every day, and I have to make sure that my wife, I get some clearance through her and make sure I'm doing the right thing when it comes to him. But ultimately, it's great to see his growth. But at some point, once he touches high school, because he just finished 7th grade yesterday. Once he touched high school, I'll probably pull back and let somebody else coach him and be a dad from the stands.
And so you mentioned growing up with your mom, and all the sacrifices that she made for you growing up, that way you could be successful, understanding that later in life. What do you teach these kids about making sacrifices? Because I also heard a story that your daughter growing up, she wasn't an outstanding volleyball player. You kind of sat her down and said, hey, do you really want to do this? Because if you do, you got to put in the work, and she's become one of the top players in the nation. So what do you tell them about sacrifice and kind of having to put other things aside so they can be successful?
Yeah. So, the word sacrifice is so misused in many ways. Like, we want to, everybody's willing to say, I'm willing to sacrifice, until you actually have to sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then people misuse on what that really means. And the word sacrifice, if you're trying to accomplish something great, it's going to come with some sacrifice, the things that you absolutely love or like, or people or whatever it may be. And that's one of the things that I really promote, from a perspective as a dad and also as a business owner of a youth sports organization, is, hey, look, what are you willing to sacrifice, time on a video game? Are you willing to sacrifice time, with your friends? Are you willing to, to put more time into your craft? And that's something that, I really promote. And even from a parent perspective, I tell our parents, I said, look, we can't just expect to give our kids everything, because they'll never learn how to work for anything. And, if you can make sure that your kid understands that level of sacrifice that they need to commit to accomplish the goals that they're trying to accomplish, then you have something. And that's what's the thing that is really, really important to me, because people think that they're giving out thousands of scholarships, every day. Right. And they think that, everybody has a chance to make it pro. Right. Both getting to college and pro is a true 1 percentile.
Yeah.
Right. And so, so those are the stories that I like to always talk about, because I believe in it. And it's something that I personally went through myself.
So talking about your daughter, she's in that 1 percentile, but she's gone through a lot.
Right.
She had open heart surgery this past year, and just health in general with her, with everything she's gone through. How has that just put life, sports, everything in perspective? Because she's a warrior. I mean, she's one of the top players at Texas, at UT. So to be going through all of that and still succeed at such a high level, what type of perspectives does that give both of you?
Well, for me, it brings energy to me. Even, sometimes, as much as I've been through as a player and as a person throughout my 41 years, looking at my daughter, she gave me so much energy. She's so resilient and that was actually her second one in 7 years, believe it or
Wow.
not. And the first one, I remember, when she was, I think she was 12. Yeah, she was 12, 13-ish. And we got the call that she needed it. Well, she ended up having that surgery and she bounced back, in 30, I think it was like 35 days, she was back playing.
Oh, wow.
But the problem was that they had they put the ring on the valve that was replaced that was too small. They didn't think that she was going to be 6'4", athlete. So
Right.
she had to go back in. But really the thing for me was when I look at her history, what she just went through at performing a full season at 50% lung capacity, which is unreal. I was blown away when the doctor told us that. And most importantly, the thing that really blew me away was that she wouldn't have had to have the second surgery, if she chose to stop playing volleyball. She only had to have the second surgery if she wanted to continue to play volleyball. And that spoke volumes to me of where her commitment and sacrifice was. And that's she's a perfect example that I use with my son all the time. I said, watch your sister. She's giving you, she's showing you exactly, the avenue that you should take, because she's fought for everything, right? From not being very good to being the best player in the country coming out, her senior class to being one of the best players on her team at University of Texas, and going through these trials and tribulations. And that's something that really inspires me and motivates me as her dad. And hopefully my son can take that same energy as well. And many people that sees her story.
Yeah. I mean, that just gave me goosebumps listening to you talk about that right there. So I'm one of those people. It's going to inspire. Switching gears a little bit from volleyball to basketball. How has the sport changed from when you played to where the game is now?
It's changed. And, I know a lot of people debate about, is it better now or better back then? Is it worse now versus back then? These athletes are tremendous athletes, and you have to perform at a high level to make it to the NBA. And they are the very best athletes in the world, no question. I think the game is faster, without a doubt. I think that you're watching more people shoot from half court fluently. I think the talent level is just as high as it's ever been. Is the physicality the same? Absolutely not. But that's not the era we live in, right? That's we can't penalize players for playing in different eras, right? And I'm sure the era before I came in, those guys were saying, hey, those guys aren't as physical, right? That type of stuff. But all in all, I enjoyed the game. I see the curve happening with the rest of the world catching up with talent level. We're seeing that with Luka down here in Dallas and what he's doing as a young player. But I'm looking forward to kind of that big guy being able to come back a little bit versus being all 3-pointers. And it will at some point, but ultimately I couldn't be any more proud of what the NBA is today.
The NBA draft is coming up. Hopefully we'll find out when that will be. Jermaine Ramsey and RJ Hampton are two players, former Drive Nation players, that are projected to be top 15 picks this year. What does it feel like for you when former players make it to the NBA? Do you feel a sense of pride when you hear their name called?
You know what? I am very prideful of it. I'm going to be completely honest, and this may just sound so generic, but when I got an opportunity, and it happened 2 years ago when our first class of seniors went off to play in college on the volleyball side. I was so proud to watch those kids on television. And then last year it was really the first class for us in basketball, and to see that opportunity and what that hard work translates into. I'm incredibly proud. I'm incredibly proud of all of our kids and student athletes that go off and use the sport to better themselves and their families. Really, honestly, long term, whether they make it to the pros or not.
Right.
They're better educated. They have better vision on what they want to do. But it is exciting watching these kids, RJ Hampton and Jermaine Ramsey, be in a position to, change a family's bloodline, quite frankly. And I'm looking forward to it. I know it's going to be a little bit unorthodox this year with the pandemic. But I'm sure they're just as energized about having that opportunity.
And with the pandemic, I know we touched on this a little in the beginning, but being a small business owner, how has this affected business in general and then youth sports?
It's been hard. I mean, we're watching some of our most iconic brands struggle,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously small businesses are just, it's a domino effect to us as well. And it's been a struggle. It's been a real struggle, and we're trying to be as creative as we possibly can to keep the business open and be that tool and that springboard for student athletes. And I truthfully believe we're going to make it. I believe it's God's plan that He has for me and has for this area. We're going to do the things that are necessary to try to keep the lights on and keep this thing around for the next 30, 40 years.
What do you think the outcome of all this? What's our new normal going to be like within sports?
Short term, we're gonna see sports happen, but we're not gonna see any large crowds. I would think for sure on the professional side, collegiate side, and, and the amateur side. I think the amateur side is gonna have to catch up because it's the one side that doesn't put a lot of detail when it comes to our environments. People don't really look at amateur um, as a real business. So you go into certain facilities and certain venues that just aren't well kept. And so, that's one of the biggest concerns that we have, for my teams. And we have a lot of kids, 1,200 plus kids in our organization, on how we schedule, right? And we basically canceled all of our travel stuff for the summer. And trying to create as much inside of Drive Nation as we possibly can, because I can control that environment, right? We know, we bought, ton of sanitation machines that go around and automatically sprays down everything, new floor machines, sanitation stations. We're not allowing a soul in that facility outside of the athletes. And we'll make that optional for them with masks, right? And we're also looking at a pay-per-view model when it comes to, parents that have underlying, health issues that don't want to come into facilities but still want to watch their kid, nephew, whatever it may be, play. So we're taking the right steps. But honestly, we none of us really knows. We're just kind of held hostage to the information that we're given. But we're going to do our best for sure at Drive Nation to put everybody in a safe position.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I hope sports comes back soon the way it was before. That would be obviously ideal.
It looks like, I have quite a few NBA friends, and all those guys are just now starting to really train again. And so it looks like the NBA is going to try to make one last run. And I think once the NBA sets a tone, because they were actually the first organization to actually, basically postpone a season or cancel the season for a period of time. I think once they come in with their format, I think, it's going to be a domino effect towards that as well.
Yeah. All right, Jermaine. Well, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.